Doritos have become the biggest scam in the grocery store, and that is saying a lot. You might already know that they are engineered to be extremely addictive. That's the first thing. But we've known that for a while. The new thing is that the company that makes Doritos, aka PepsiCo, has been running one of the most successful pricing scams maybe ever, including charging you $7 a bag, which by the way is more than staples like chicken or ground beef.
Why is no one talking about the price of a bag of chips? $5.99 for a regular sized bag of Doritos. Are you freaking kidding me?
Well, just regular Doritos, $9 a bag.
$7.29 for one bag of Ruffles. Are you kidding? And before you say, oh, that was the party size, the regular size is $6. That's ridiculous. I've never in my life.
And on top of it all, there is a very big chance they're going to get away with it. I'm so excited to talk to you guys about all the insane stuff that's been happening with this. It is a timeless story about greed and all the manipulation that happens behind the scenes, yet you never really get to hear about. So to get us acquainted, I think we need a little background info on Doritos themselves. Doritos start as a mix of pulverized cornmeal and vegetable oil that is then rolled, shaped, and cut into triangles, then baked, then fried, and then blasted with their very special seasonings. The result is one of the most successful food products of all time, an absolute smash hit. Within the first 2 years of their release, they were already one of the most purchased snacks in the USA. And today, the Doritos brand brings in more than $4 billion a year just for this chip. And supposedly, Dorito means little pieces of gold, which could not be a more appropriate name. But why? Why this chip specifically? Well, two reasons. First, it was called the archetype of addictive ultra-processed foods. The archetype. So the success formula here has always been simple. Super addictive plus extremely cheap to produce equals money. Lots of it. But now PepsiCo has changed the formula. Now it's super addictive plus extremely cheap to produce plus insanely overpriced equals we don't know yet. That question mark is still being answered right now by you. This whole thing is such a great look into how companies play with their customers behind the scenes, and how today some companies succeed by giving value to their customers, but many companies succeed by extracting from their customers, extracting as much as they possibly can. This headline dragged me down a rabbit hole. Doritos at $7 a bag ended up costing PepsiCo billions. Frito-Lay's resistance to cutting snack prices led to its first revenue decline in over a decade. Now it sounds like they got greedy, they charged too much, and they already got what they deserved. And if you read the original Bloomberg article, that is what it sounds like. But that's not the whole story. And I think when you see what actually happened behind the scenes, you are going to be very, very annoyed. PepsiCo got away with this for a very simple reason. We let them. We keep buying, and we put off doing anything about it. The same way we put off going to the doctor until we absolutely have to. Luckily, there's an easy way to stop procrastinating on your health with today's sponsor, ZocDoc. Booking a doctor's appointment is one of those things that sounds simple until you go to do it. You have to find a doctor, and then you have to track down their number and call during business hours, sit on hold just to find out the next opening is 3 months away. So in the end, a lot of us just don't. We procrastinate, we push it to next week, then next month, then next year. That thing we've been meaning to get checked out, it just sits there. We tell ourselves, I'll get around to it eventually, until it's not something you can ignore anymore. And that's where ZocDoc changes things. Instead of the phone tag and the 3-month wait, you just open the app, search local doctors in your network, and just like that, you can see all of the real appointment openings that you can book in just a couple of taps. No phone calls, no hold music. Most appointments happen within 24 to 72 hours, sometimes same day, and it's free. They've got over 150,000 providers across over 200 specialties in all 50 states. So whether it's a doctor, a dentist, a therapist, you can pick someone good, rather than just whoever picks up the phone. So if you've been putting off booking something, a checkup, the dentist, that thing you've been ignoring for 2 years, it might be time to give ZocDoc a try. Head to ZocDoc.com/Kiana to get started and check that appointment off your list. If you've been putting off, you don't need to wait and procrastinate. Taking care of your health just got easier. Click the link below and check out ZocDoc today. Thanks to ZocDoc for sponsoring today's video. Let's get into it. PepsiCo Inc.'s chips prices had gotten too high. Walmart Inc. had been telling the makers of Doritos, Lay's, Cheetos, and many other beloved snacks that they were too expensive for more than a year. So Pepsi owns Doritos, of course, but also Cheetos and Lay's, as mentioned, then Tostitos, Fritos, Cracker Jack, Munchies, Munchos, Popcorners, Ruffles, Rolled Gold, Smartfood, Sabritas, Siete, SunChips, and even Funyuns. Plus, they also own Pepsi, course, and other big name drink brands like Gatorade and even Poppy. But yeah, pretty much every salty snack on the shelf is owned by PepsiCo. As far as name brand chips go, they virtually control the entire market. Most Americans purchasing a salty snack are purchasing from them, which is probably why they felt like they could raise prices to whatever they wanted. Executives at PepsiCo knew they were too expensive too. Sales at Frito-Lay, the company's snacks powerhouse, were plunging. Some of its chips cost more than $7 a bag at Walmart. Doritos prices had jumped nearly 50% from 2021, according to Attain, which tracks consumer spending data. Yet, even when Walmart cut Frito-Lay's shelf space, giving it to its own cheaper in-house brand and competitors like Takis, price tags didn't go down. So here's Pepsi. The price absolutely cranked on Doritos and the rest, gouging their customers to the point that Walmart is literally taking them off the shelves, thinking they can charge you $7 a bag. Think about how absurd and infuriating that is. Ultra-processed junk food corn chips were being sold to you at a price that made them more expensive than meat. And obviously we're not all meat eaters here, but I feel like meat is such a good benchmark for this because not only is it a staple that most people use to feed their families, but also an animal gave their life for it. So meat is typically more expensive than broccoli for good reason. Right now, chicken breast in the USA is $4 a pound. Ground beef, nearly $7 a pound, and it's at an all-time high. A pound of Doritos, over $11. We're talking about a corn slurry snack versus actual food. Why? Why would a company do this? This sounds like terrible business, right? And the answer is because they thought they were untouchable. They did it because they thought they could. This is all a big game to them. Seriously, it's a numbers game, and this is how it's played. Here's a chart of Frito-Lay's revenues, which is the snack division of PepsiCo. Their revenues between 2020 and 2024. The top orange line is revenue growth, and the bottom black line is volume growth. Now, you generally expect them to be very similar, as in more volume growth equals more revenue growth, as they were up until around Q3 2021. What we see here between 2022 and 2023 is flat volume growth, but insane revenue growth. Look at that. Look at the difference between what it should have been and what it actually was. This is because they cranked the prices. This big orange spike in the middle here with the flat line at the bottom, that's them ripping you off. Quote, revenue growth skyrocketed into the double digits for the next 2 years. Internally, bonuses were flowing, according to people familiar with the matter. While telling you that inflation was forcing their hand during the pandemic, they were actually getting rich. The story they gave us was that they cranked their prices like all companies did during the pandemic to cover their rising costs associated with the situation. But in reality, that's not what happened. They were using it as an excuse, and we bought it. You can see from the chart that even though the prices were cranked, most people were still buying. They didn't change what they were doing. This emboldened PepsiCo. While other companies stopped raising their prices after the pandemic, they just kept going. And for a while there, this was just making them more and more money, even though some customers were turning away with the prices cranked so high and the cost to make them so low, they were just raking it in. But of course, eventually that started to change as more and more customers started dropping Doritos and Funyuns and whatever else from their grocery bags. Meanwhile, pressures were mounting. Frito-Lay's revenues, which had risen for 53 quarters in a row, or more than 13 years, were falling. PepsiCo was losing market share to cheaper private label brands, and other packaged food companies like Conagra Brands Inc. and General Mills Inc. were already lowering their prices. Meetings with retailers like Walmart, which wanted the snack maker to address concerns about affordability as soon as possible, became tense, according to people familiar with the matter. When sales started slipping in 2023, some employees raised concerns about prices getting too high and hikes happening too often. So everyone around Pepsi is expressing concern that the prices just keep climbing higher and higher. They're suddenly selling much less product than ever before, and Walmart literally has to say to them, your prices are too damn high. Drop the prices because we cannot sell your product at this price. I mean, Walmart's whole thing is affordability, and they are serious about it. And they have to be one of, if not PepsiCo's biggest partner. But PepsiCo is just like, nope, we tasted that sweet $7 Dorito success and we're not going back. Even when revenue started falling, senior managers made clear they did not want to go backward on prices. Frito-Lay was PepsiCo's cash cow, generating money for the beverage division to spend, employees said. Unlike PepsiCo's soda brands, which have to contend with Coca-Cola's dominance, Frito-Lay owns the land of salty snacks. It controls nearly 60% of the US market, according to RBC Capital Markets, which gives it more power to set pricing. The Frito business is the jewel of PepsiCo, LaGuardia said on an investor call in early 2023, noting it had the highest margins of any unit within the company. No matter what happens with the consumer, we are going to be, I think, the preferred choice. So as I mentioned earlier, Doritos and Friends, particularly any of the corn variety, are insanely cheap to produce. So much so that even before price hikes, their margins were insane. Like, I couldn't find exact figures, but this thing is dirt cheap. And when you own 60% of the market like that and you're buying that much corn and potatoes and whatever else, that gives you even more power to lower the price of these products. So they've just been making cake on these for years and years. Then on top of it, the CEO seems to think that no matter what PepsiCo does to its customers, they're not gonna leave and go to a competitor. They think, we own this situation, good luck getting your Dorito fix somewhere else. To quote someone online, execs think Doritos are God's gift to earth and we will pay whatever they tell us to pay. That is apparently exactly what they think. Which, I mean, why? Why would you have that kind of arrogance? Is it partially because they engineer their products to be addictive? Let's go back to the Dorito. Every single thing about this Dorito has been engineered to get you to eat more. Frito-Lay has a $30 million research complex in Texas with 500 chemists, psychologists, and food scientists all working together to make their products as craveable as possible. And here is some of what they figured out. That satisfying snap when you bite down is literally designed to the decibel. Our brain finds crunchy things exciting, so Doritos are one of the crunchiest snacks around. Then, right after the crunch, the Dorito will literally disappear in your mouth, melt away into nothing. Again, that's intentional. It's called vanishing caloric density, one of the OG tricks to make a food addictive. The chip melts so fast that your brain doesn't register that you ate anything. So what happens? You reach for another one. Next, the flavor. The nacho cheese Dorito is intensely flavorful, but also not so flavorful that you get satisfied and need to stop eating. That's on purpose. It's a vague mix of garlic, cheese, and umami that keeps your brain coming back for more. Not to mention, things are so crazy in the food science world these days that they can actually design when a flavor note hits you, what order it hits you in, and for how long it lingers on your tongue afterwards. And then of course, the dust. The powder on your fingers at the end, the final hit. It's the final burst of MSG and salt that keeps you reaching back into the bag. This is literally just a taste of the stuff that they do to make food craveable these days. I could literally make an entire video on this. It's extensive and it actually gets crazier every single year. But yeah, this is why PepsiCo's so confident. They're like, good luck, talkies. We got 30 million invested into these chips. goodbye. Instead of dropping prices, PepsiCo tried other tactics to keep costs down and lure shoppers back. It put fewer chips in bags and offered short-term deals. It unveiled cheaper multi-packs with fewer bags. It also rolled out new versions of snacks without artificial colors as well as higher protein. We have been working different tactics to give the consumer what they want, and we see that it's working, LaGuardia said on a call in mid-2024. In both 2023 and 2024, LaGuardia predicted Frito-Lay's volumes would rebound. So in response to customers turning away due to extremely high prices, PepsiCo decided they would do literally anything other than drop the price. I like how he said, we've been working different tactics to give the consumer what they want. The first thing they tried to win the customer back was shrinkflation, which, I mean, obviously that's a customer favorite when you start giving them even less for their money now.
Wait for it. There you go, ladies and gentlemen. 1 ounce of Doritos.
Then the next thing they tried was protein and naked Doritos. And I'm gonna assume that they charged even more for those. Because of course people perceive protein Doritos as being, I don't know, healthier, wellnessy, and therefore they can charge more for them. When again, obviously, they're really just another scam. Next, they created an AI app that cancels out the sound of your chewing when you're eating Doritos. Something they called Doritos Silent. I'm sure that one really moved the needle. And finally, on top of that, rather than just lowering the prices, they tried opening a Lay's themed restaurant in Spain. Basically, it's a restaurant where you can go and get Lay's potato chips as the signature ingredient in a bunch of different things. So yeah, they were really willing to do literally anything and everything except drop the prices. It took until February of 2026, 2 full years after the sales dip, for them to do anything about their outrageous pricing. So with the company's stock down more than 20% from a peak in 2023, Elliott Investment Management took a $4 billion stake in the company with a list of demands, including making its products more affordable. Seeing its volume declines, the company should have cut prices earlier, said Nicholas Federer, a food industry analyst. PepsiCo, like many, assumed consumers would suffer the rises and only now appreciates how important affordability is to the typical consumer. Finally, in February of 2026, PepsiCo announced it would slash prices by up to 15% on some salty snacks. That's not that much. They cranked the prices way higher than that. By then, Frito-Lay had missed internal revenue targets for 2 years in a row by over $1 billion, according to people familiar with the matter. The company's market value dropped down more than $50 billion since 2023. Lower prices started showing up in stores at the beginning of 2026. So finally, after all of that, customers started walking away in big enough numbers to get Doritos PepsiCo to change their ways. Doritos at $7 a bag ended up costing PepsiCo billions. When you hear billions, you're like, oh wow, they got greedy, they got what they deserved. But in reality, look how high those peaks were, compared to probably what they would have made if they just kept doing what they were doing. So far, they haven't lost a thing compared to what they gained by hiking those prices. See, the thing is, many companies know that they can hike their prices for a long time, and you won't change your behavior. That's just pure gravy for them, and they know it. This is called price elasticity. And a product that doesn't even have a direct competitor, a Dorito is a Dorito. If you're craving Doritos, if you're used to buying Doritos, Walmart's great value nacho cheese chips might not hit the same way. Most consumers won't even consider picking up a bag of that. Most consumers won't even consider a knockoff brand an option when they've already set their preference and their habits for the real thing. So companies with inelastic products like Doritos know that they can keep raising their prices because they have something that is unlikely to result in a change. Though I did randomly stumble upon this. Look. Great value Doritos knockoffs are fire. I have been a lifelong Doritos fan, and I can say with confidence, I won't ever buy another bag. I'm not mad at them or anything. It's just, believe it or not, Walmart brand great value of nacho cheese chips are far superior IMO. They are really doing the most. They really want my business for the chip game. They have my attention now and I am here for it. The secret to amazing chips is to shake the unopened bag by holding it from the bottom. That way the seasonings on the bottom of the bag get redistributed on the chips. When I smashed on the first bag with Walmart Pico de Gallo, I thought it was a fluke or a one-off that maybe I got lucky and got a really cheesy bag. It wasn't a fluke or a one-off. Just from a few chips, I have a thick cheese crust on my fingers. Thick is emphasized. I can afford Doritos. I mean, no matter how much they raised the price, I was gonna buy them anyway because of lifelong loyalty. Now that I've tried the great value kind, I don't need to spend all the money I have been and get a far superior product. Price elasticity right there. Isn't it funny that that little Reddit post was basically the entire arc we just talked about? Pepsi raised prices, Walmart didn't like it, started pulling them off the shelves, putting their products there instead. They put their great value Doritos there, and some people made the switch. People who never would have bothered to give it a try said, fine, Doritos are way too expensive, let me give this a shot. So they lost customers. In this case, it sounds like they lost one for life. But PepsiCo still knows that the last phrase applies to a lot of people. No matter how much they raised the price, I was going to buy them anyway. PepsiCo played serious price games with its customers, knowing that people would keep buying for a long time, and knowing that people were so addictive, so loyal to their product, that most wouldn't bother to change their behavior. And yeah, they lost a few customers to Walmart. But guess what's been happening now? As you know, prices have finally come down a little bit. Nowhere near what they used to be, but they have come down. PepsiCo thinks this little drop will be enough to bring everyone on back to Doritos and Friends. PepsiCo Chief Executive Officer Ramon Laguarta said at a conference that the company will know by summer 2026 if the cuts are enough. Tests in select cities last year generated a pretty good boost in volume, he said on a separate call with investors that month. By agreeing to lower prices, the company secured on average a double-digit increase in shelf space at major retailers like Walmart, Costco, and Target. At a Walmart in Washington, D.C. in late March, bags of Cheetos Simply Naked were stacked in a primo spot at the end of the aisle where more people walk by. A large red sign advertised their rollback price, $3.97, down from $4.43. Retired DC resident Lee Jones says she doesn't buy chips often, but put a bag of organic blue corn Tostitos in her cart at Walmart because they were on sale and labeled organic. Price does matter, she said, even though they barely dropped the price and the prices are still higher than they were before by a lot. So yeah, in conclusion, PepsiCo ripped you off for multiple years. They mess you around based on an addictive product and behavioral economics, knowing that you wouldn't change your behavior, knowing you would just keep paying, suffering the price increases, as the article said. In this article and all the other articles I've seen about this story keep making it seem like PepsiCo lost. I saw a lot of people online being like, great case study on how when companies get greedy, they f themselves. Yet in reality, PepsiCo was right. PepsiCo's bet on price cuts, brand refreshes, pays off. Guess what? The prices dropped a little bit and people are back. That's all it took. Yesterday, while knowing I'm coming in here today to film this, I literally saw 2 children with full-sized bags of Doritos walking down the street. And I thought to myself, clearly Doritos are on sale right now. This was a masterclass in evil genius behavior. No one even knows they were ripped off for multiple years, and no one is offended enough to do anything. We are living through the rip-off economy. So many companies purely extract from their customers rather than give to their customers. That's the business model these days. Which is why that guy went running to great value when they were actually, what did he say? They are doing the most. They really want my business for the chip game. They have my attention now, and I'm here for it. That's all it takes to make people happy. Try a little bit and don't rip them off. But guess what? It only changes if you vote with your wallet. If we didn't put up with this stuff across the board, it wouldn't happen. Great time to drop ultra-processed snacks if you've been thinking about it. Or if you've got a family member who's absolutely hooked, maybe tell them, hey, they're actually ripping you off like 5 different ways on this. Like, tell me it is not a major health motivator to know that these companies are absolutely raking you over the coals all the time. And it's definitely not every company, but it's most of the trillionaire food ones, that's for sure. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.